This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome in. I'm Paul Catalina alongside Garrett Ross, who is stuck in our equipment closet. That's where we wanted to put him.
Yep.
Because generally I don't like his attitude or his face or his overall vibe. But I do need him to help me co-host on Mondays. And even though all that being said, I do enjoy doing the co-hosting with him, even though he may not enjoy it as much as I do. But I do. And super thrilled to be here today. We have a ton to get to. We haven't been on in almost a week because of Thanksgiving. Garrett, first off, let's get the silly pleasantries out of the way.
Okay.
Did you have a nice Thanksgiving?
Sure. I had a nice Thanksgiving. I really didn't do much, man. Like we went to my sister-in-law's house. I just kind of dipped out of there for a bit. Yeah, that was about all I did.
I had a very wonderful Thanksgiving. As you know, each year at Thanksgiving, I am tasked with bringing my wife to the Gaylord Texan.
That you are.
And during that trip, we do a lot of different things. She loves Christmas. I'm married to
Buddy the Elf.
Actually, here's what I think. I think she is the daughter of Buddy the Elf, the girl reindeer from Rudolph, like all that,
it's all in one.
Her godfather is Hermie. I want to be a dentist. But no, I say that. We went through ice at the Gaylord this year, at least the Gaylord Texan. There's different at all the different Gaylord properties that have the ice show where it's like this ridiculously ornate ice structures. And again, you got to take Parker there.
Yeah, I got to get him up there.
Yeah, you do. I will say this. It was a very funny thing that happened, but it was Rudolph. And so, they've got the snowman and the abominable, they've got the burl-eyed snowman that tells the story. They've got the mountain man. They've got the Bumble, who's the Yeti. Then the Hermie. They've got all those, Rudolph and his parents and Santa and all that. It's great. It's great. There's two funny things about it. One, there's a nativity scene right at the end that's not painted. It's just carved. It's very beautiful. But the architects are from China. And, you can't really see, I'm just saying, it looked a little Chinese.
The feature? What are you talking about?
The features looked a little like the shepherds and the wise men and
I got you.
The baby. Looked a little Chinese.
Well,
it's fine.
It's close.
You're
in the Middle East. It's close.
Whatever. But they didn't paint it or anything, but I just thought that the eyes looked a little. just saying. But these, and they're unbelievable. The skill that they have. Here's a funny story. When you're walking in to go into ice, they give you these big blue coats. And I know I'm a husky boy, a gravy boy, a beefy tee. I know that. But the girl saw me and she's like, oh, she grabbed it and walked it down to me. And I was like, oh man, I really do have to lose some weight. She can just there's not even a discussion. It's just hey,
identified it. Yeah.
Chunker. We've got a chunker.
Break glass.
Hopefully he can breathe. It gets cold in there. It's very cold in there. But we get that, but they have it says don't do this, don't do that. One of the things is don't lick the ice.
Oh, yeah.
And I asked the bartender, because they have a little bar in the middle of it. You buy a ticket outside and you go in and you say, here, I'll have my mistletoe margarita at 10 o'clock in the morning, which I did. And so the bartender's like, you would be surprised.
Oh, you would,
how many
I imagine.
Adults lick the thing.
I'm not surprised. I grew up around a lot of idiots that would definitely do that without hesitation. So I'm not surprised that that's a thing. And I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if it was more adults doing it than children. So, yeah, that's fascinating.
All right, we have so much to talk about today. This is the end of the regular season.
Yep.
We have 8 games on Saturday. Those games are conference championship games. There are some surprising participants. And here's going to be my Penn State rant of the day.
Let's go.
you want to fall ass backwards into everything, and they could haul off and play their best game in 20 years and beat Oregon. Do I think they're going to beat Oregon? No, I don't. Because they don't beat teams that are ranked at all.
Right.
Like, they don't beat teams in the top 10.
On their par or above
don't.
them. No, doesn't happen.
It's happened one time in James Franklin's tenure. One time. So, no, but you could fall ass backwards into being the number 1 overall seed. If they beat Oregon, they will be the number 1 overall seed.
I would kind of I wouldn't mind that just to see you go, like, the rage it would put you in, but that would be about it. Because dude, they're okay.
Yeah, but they haven't, you talk about falling ass backwards into things. Now, Alabama might do the same thing.
Alabama has no business being in the damn playoff. They're going to try to put them in.
No 9-3 team has any business being in this thing. No 9-3. The absolute madness that there's not a couple okay, so if UNLV goes and beats Boise State this week, does Boise State all of a sudden not deserve to be in? I don't think so. And look, Miami lost to Syracuse, but if SMU wins, Miami's still 10-2. I still think the wins have to mean something.
Right.
They have to mean something.
I just that's the thing where then you get into the speculation of trying to match up schedules and everything else. Like, I honestly, with Miami, I felt like Miami last week, I think I said it a couple of different times, should be a playoff team. But after watching them, I get it, but their defense is non-existent, dude.
They have a playoff quarterback.
No, they absolutely
have 2 playoff running backs and 3 playoff wide receivers and a playoff offensive line.
No, I get that.
They do not have a playoff defense, and they do not have a playoff head coach. I'll tell you that right now. Okay, who had the worst head coaching day?
Ooh.
Ryan Day, who, for whatever reason, thought that I'm going to run into the strength of this Michigan defense.
Stupid.
Because it's definitely mental at this point with him in Michigan that he's 0 for his last 4 with them, with 1 win, which was year 1, So he's 0 for his last 4 against Michigan. 1-4 overall against them. Why is he running into the teeth of the defense? I had the same problem later on in the day when A&M kept doing it on short yardage.
Bad.
When
they called a timeout to do it.
They called a timeout to do it. Maybe just run something outside. Yeah. Run a little play action, run a little down on the goal line when they got stuffed on the goal line, like down there. Run a boot. You've got Marcel Reed. Run something.
Yeah.
Just don't keep going in the middle. Like, they've stuffed you in the middle. That's where the strength of Texas's defense is. The biggest strength that Texas has is the absolute middle of their defense and their secondary.
Yeah.
Guess what negates that? If you run outside, if you run a naked bootleg, it kind of negates both those things. And means it's Marcel Reed versus, say, Jahdae Barron or Andrew McCuba or one of those other great DBs, or Anthony Hill, the linebacker, making a play. Put it on them. But take the defensive line out of it.
Right.
That's what they needed to do on both of those, 4th and shorts that they had in the red zone, was do that. Ryan Day had a terrible day. Mario Cristobal, at the end of games, I don't know what happens to this man, but he doesn't math.
No, he does not.
He doesn't. So last year against Georgia Tech, they don't have any timeouts. All he's got to do is take a knee, and the game is over. And then he's kind of watered the lawn on the legend of Haynes King.
Yeah.
Who, outside of the very last play of the game, or not the last play of regulation, which was targeting, by the way, they didn't call it. But outside of that play, Haynes King was the gutsiest performer of the weekend.
Oh, without a doubt.
I didn't do my top 5. There's no week awards this week, week 14 awards or whatever.
Stuff going on.
You know why? Because they're all going to Haynes effing King.
They should.
Because that was just gutsy.
Played his ass off, man.
So Miami is down by 7. It's 42-35.
Yep.
There's 3 minutes left.
Yep.
The defense is
Sucks.
awful. I heard it described by my friend Kyle, a dyed-in-the-wool Hurricane fan, as ass.
Honestly, like, it was like watching a Lincoln Riley team at Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Like, I know you can make,
But
like,
here's the thing. Lincoln Riley would not have made
no,
this
he wouldn't
decision.
have done that.
So there's 3 minutes left. If they get a couple of first downs, of which they've done easily throughout the day, the game is over.
Yep.
Your timeouts, whatever you had left, I don't remember how many timeouts he had left, but in 3 minutes, even with all 3 timeouts, with a defense that gives, if they get 2 to 3 first downs, 2 first downs, it's essentially over. 3, it's over. You're not getting it if they get 3 first downs, which they easily did and ran out the clock.
Yep.
He kicks a field goal to go down 42-38 and coached himself out of the ACC title game and probably out of the playoff.
I literally, when he did that, I lost my mind. Me and Anna were sitting there watching it and talking. And I just went on a rant for like 15. I was like, what is he doing? He does this every year in this situation. Your defense is awful. You haven't come up with a stop all day long. And you think magically you're going to slow down Kyle McCord, who is cooking your secondary right now. That wasn't the case at all. To me, that was like throwing in the white towel. Like you just essentially just quit right there and handed the game over.
Now, here's what I know he was thinking. I'm going to kick this field goal. We're going to get the ball back, and then Cam is going to lead us on a touchdown drive. But and then we don't have to go to overtime.
Yeah, but like you haven't, you showed. I know the thought process.
You're also putting in a position of a possession that's theoretical.
Yes,
like you're saying, well, we're going to get the ball back.
Theoretical stuff and hypotheticals all year long in this.
Yeah, no. That's no. You've invented a possession that does not automatically exist.
Right.
Had he done that with 9 minutes left, I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, but
like, just go ahead and get your points.
Yeah.
But with 3 minutes left,
can't do it.
And the way, here's what I know about him. He does not know what the word analytics means.
No.
It means nothing to him at all. He's a good coach. He's not a great coach. He's good at certain things. He's a very good recruiter. Much like Billy Napier, showing he's a really good recruiter. Mm-hmm. And we'll see if he can put it all together in this void year. But I don't know. If you ask me what team is gonna is most likely to suffer the FSU fate this year, it's Miami. Brown gone, Ward gone, Martinez gone, Fletcher gone, Restrepo gone. Most of that offensive line will be gone. The defense wasn't good in the first place, and I would think Shannon Dawson, the offensive coordinator, one of these, he's not going to get UNC or UCF or West Virginia, I don't think. Mm-hmm. But he could very well get UAB, FIU. He could get Southern Miss, FIU, one of those.
Yeah.
To prove that he's ready to be a head coach. He's going to have a prove-it job. Not like an Andy Kotelnicki, who very well, to me, could get the UNC job or the West Virginia job. Mm-hmm. Really, I think he's a candidate for both of those. Or should be, at least. So, yeah, there are, but, Ryan Day and Mario Cristobal, if we had a bracket of who had the crappier week, I wouldn't even put Mike Elko in that because, you made a couple bad play calls, but.
They just got out of the athlete.
They got out, and they had every chance to win that game. It probably, if A&M wins that game, it's probably 21-17 because they convert on some touchdowns in the second half. Something like that. But they shut, Mike Elko's defense did.
Well, the defense played solid.
Especially in the second half, shut them down. And just the offense with Colin Klein, it seems like the last couple of weeks, he's just kind of gone into a bit of a shell of what he feels confident they can do. And it's been a little bit more predictable.
Well, it's hard to, because Marcel Reed is going to be good.
Yeah.
But he's got plenty of work to do when it comes to throwing, and I don't think that Colin Klein can ask him right now at this point in time to make the throws or draw up certain plays that he would. He's limited in what he can do with this playbook because Marcel Reed hasn't developed as a passer yet, and I think it's going to come. It just kind of hindered him in that matchup on Saturday, and there were certain scenarios where Reed could have made some better throws or decisions, but Yeah, I think that's kind of that situation there. They're going to be fine. And once he develops and has a little more time in that offense and they can kind of build that repertoire, they're going to be good. Like, I think Marshall Rica can be the ideal quarterback for that situation and for Colin Klein, but it just wasn't it wasn't there on Saturday. They just had no offense that could match what Texas could do.
Yeah. No, there wasn't. But again, so I take Mike Elko out of this because I do think that, like, overall, outside of like maybe 8 to 10 offensive individual plays, I think A&M coached well.
Right.
I think they coached well. I think they got out-coached by a staff that's more experienced.
They've been together longer.
That's been together longer, that's more experienced with this. And a staff that has a lot to prove in that. Look, I'm never going to sit here and wave the flag for the Texas Longhorns. You know that. But the unfair narrative about Texas, it's a fair question to ask is like, how can they do against a high-powered offense? We'll see. And they have not clearly played one just yet, although A&M was the best thing and they shut them down, although not at full speed but close. I think that how can they do against a high-powered offense is the one question about against Texas. But when it comes down to that, like, okay, they'll probably be okay. You know, they might lose like they did to Georgia. It depends on the day. You know, is Quinn Ewers healthy? Is he playing well? Is he
making good throws?
Is he making good throws? Like, are these what's going on there? Like, that's all you really need. Like, that's my only question about Texas. I have very few questions. Yeah. How healthy can you remain through this stretch run? Do you not have massive key injuries? And that's about them. And, you know, if you do get into a trading points kind of a thing, can you trade points? Okay, we'll see. But it's not their fault that the schedule, which looked middle of the road, like slightly above, that Michigan wasn't that good, that, you know, Mississippi State's got a new coach, is in a total rebuild right now, that Florida was middle of the road, that Kentucky was like, they could, like, you could take any year in the SEC and that could have all been flipped. Look, I think Florida's got a great chance to be really good next year if Billy Napier makes the right decisions and to keep his, you know, in order to keep his job. I mean, Lagway's fantastic.
Lagway's phenomenal.
He's fantastic. But, you know, like, that's my, like, Ohio State has legit questions. Like, is their play calling good? Is that, like, can they win these big games? Because Ryan Day really hasn't. And it's going to be interesting with Ryan Day because, you know, we've seen some jobs come open. Now, in any normal circumstance, this man is not on the hot seat.
He would be fine, yeah.
But when your job is to beat Michigan, win conference titles, win national titles, he's only really done one of those things. And the conference titles haven't led to national titles yet. And the guy he replaced did all those things.
Correct.
In fact, never lost to Michigan in 7 years, 7-0 against Michigan. That is going to hang over his head because he might have capped out at what he can do there. Now, Ryan Day might wind up going to another place and being, like, just killing it.
It might be the best thing for him, honestly.
I think it might. But here's the deal. Ohio State's not going to fire him now. They're going to be in the playoff. So whenever they lose, if they do, I think the national championships is the only thing that saves him. And even then, there's going to be a larger than normal faction of people within that thing that were like, well, he got lucky with that.
Yeah.
Really would rather have somebody else. You know, we don't think he's the right guy, but, you know, hey, we got UNLV in the first round, and that worked out for us. And then, oh, look at that. Somebody upset, like, oh, we played Texas, but their quarterback quarterbacks got hurt in the game, you know, something like that. Like, that would be the scenario. Oh, look, we get to play Oregon again, and now we beat them this time. You know, like, that to me would be the likely path for them, or whatever it is. But I absolutely do not envy the position he is in, because 4 in a row to the rival that you previously had won, so, like, previous 8. It's not even.
Especially when your rival can't really do anything offensively, and you've spent the entire offseason telling everybody.
Stopped them
yes.
on the goal line twice because they can't throw the ball.
And honestly, it was like the turnovers kept killing them. I still think that Will Howard is kind of struggles in big games at times. I still have questions about that. I feel like they could have made a better quarterback decision in the offseason that could have helped them. But at the end of the day, you can't have that much talent gap be in your favor. You can't have everything rolling for you and lose the way you did to your rival. It's inexcusable right now. To me, that tells me that's mental. That's in Ryan Day's head and solely where it's at. I think that's kind of inexcusable. I think he could be fine if they win a couple of playoff games, but at some point he's going to have to start beating Michigan. And if he does make it through this year and he loses to them again next year, I don't think even if he was able to make the playoff or anything, that people are going to be satisfied with that. I think he's going to be done. They're going to find a way to force him out if that happens again. I feel like this is the last, that was the last straw on Saturday you saw with the whole Michigan debacle.
Yeah. It's going to be wild. We'll take a break right here. When we come back, there are some big jobs open. And I'll just make a little bit of comment on, the end of the most tragic football season ever where.
How you feeling?
A 7-5 Florida team ran out and planted a flag against the 2-T team. I'm going to say this one first before we go to break. I put that on Twitter that I thought that them planting the flag was lame. I did not realize that when it comes to Gator fans, Florida State fans know who I am not for the most part, but there's a large chunk of them that do.
Right.
Because of what I do in this. There's a large chunk of FSU fans who are familiar with my work. So I didn't feel the need to say hey, this is how it is. But right. So Florida State fans agreed with me wholeheartedly that planting the flag then in the day of where, we've now planting the flag has been killed for me.
Yeah.
It's been killed for me.
Yeah.
Arizona State did it.
Everybody did it.
Everybody did it.
I'm trying to figure out if this was some thing where I don't know.
Michigan was the only one I would have given the stamp to do it. That was the only one I'd given a stamp to do it, and the only one that ended in a way that I thought was cool because neither coach backed off the fact that they thought there should have been a fight. Sharon Moore was great, and it's what do you think about losing with class? Somebody was trying to tee up for me. He's I don't have to think about that because we won. And then Ryan Day didn't really he didn't come out Steve Sarkisian, classiest thing ever. Ran out and goes, no, we're not doing that. And here's the thing. Even though they may have been justified to go and run out and jump on the logo, Sark is cool enough to go hey, many other douchebags have done that today. We're not doing that.
I think him and Dillingham did an excellent job of it.
Yeah. There you go. Cool dudes, right? Yeah. Look, I was happy that Mike Norvell ripped the flag apart. That was cool. And then kind of got in Napier's face about it. And then Napier was really cool about it. So there we go. I don't like that these coaches get along in this rivalry anymore.
You miss the hatred.
You know what? They actually, Spurrier and Bowden were friends, but they jabbed each other so much.
They knew how to do it, yeah.
They knew how to do it. But so then a bunch of Florida fans reminded me of some things that our fan base has done that I said, yes, I don't like that either. I know that you most of you are younger and you may not remember when this rivalry was two big swinging dicks. That's what it used to be.
Yep.
They're not.
Not at all.
2-10 and 2-9 and 6-5 to kick off. That's not big swinging dicks. Mm-mm. That's little tiny micro penises. Yep. That's what that is. And one's micro is just slightly more macro than the other micro, but still medically in the same category. So I don't want to see anybody rushing the field and planting flags for mediocre beating bad. I want to see rushing the field and planting flags for great beating great, because that's what the rivalry was. It was great versus great every year for a decade and a half. And then we messed it up.
Yep.
All of us in the state of Florida, we all messed it up. And then now I have to answer to people on Twitter who have receipts on stuff that our idiot fan base did. And yes, we have an idiot fan base, but so does everybody. Like all of these things. Look, I want to make an agreement. Let's all three be good again. We can even let UCF be good. Let's all four be good. And let's all play each other in the state if we can. But let's all be good to great again so that when we plant flags and storm the field, it's not a fucking pillow fight. And I'm sorry for cursing. I've done it a lot, but that drove me insane. Like what? And I'm not against field storming and flag planting, but I am for doing it when it matters and having a historical perspective. And the historical perspective on the Sunshine Showdown, a title I don't like, by the way, but is this used to be the Battle of the Titans. Now it's just the Battle of the Tits.
Yep.
That's it. That's all they are. And I can't take it anymore. I want them both. I will take it. Both be great again. It was so much better when we weren't living in this mediocre muck of like one good year, 5 bad ones. No. The 90s were an amazing time.
Pretty good. They were pretty good.
Let's
Thanks, Nick
strive
Saban.
for the 90s.
That was good. That was good.
Yeah. There we go. I had to get that out.
Yeah.
I had to get that out.
We're here
it's
to
out
vent,
now.
man.
It's out. And we can talk about some of the open jobs, including what Florida State and Mike Norvell have done to wipe up the gigantic manure stain that is this season. And so far, I am loving it. This is the triple option.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Alongside Garrett Rothkin, I'm calm now. I'm calm. I'm calm. I've got it out of my system. I'm happy that Gators fans came with receipts. That's fine.
Yeah.
I wanted to open the dialogue. And, a lot of people like it's a rivalry, let them do what they want. Like, no. History matters.
Yes.
Okay? You can't tell me that Herbert Hoover was a better president than Teddy Roosevelt because it's not true. And you can't tell me anybody was a better president than Teddy Roosevelt because he was the GOAT. The GOAT. The best. If we could reincarnate him and throw him back in the race now, you'd understand what I'm talking about. Come for the rants. Stay for the political and U.S. history knowledge.
Yes.
But there are several big jobs that have opened up. Mm-hmm. I'm going to start with UCF because that dovetails nicely with what I was just ranting about. Gus Malzahn did what Chip Kelly did a year ago, and he has resigned a big-time head coaching job to take a big-time offensive coordinator job at a more historic program.
Correct.
I don't want to say better. I think better is in the eye of the beholder.
I think historic's the best way to put it.
But historically better program.
Correct. On the field, yes.
On the field, and I think I've not seen one UCF fan mad about it.
No, a lot of them wanted him gone anyway. Like about halfway through the season.
I think he had kind of reached, and it's clear, very similar to what Chip Kelly, if you just want to coach ball, then you got to be a coordinator. Occasionally you can get in, you can recruit, and like the NIL stuff gets in there, but you really can just be like, well, here, call this guy.
Also think it's good for Gus, like being his age and everything, like just take some of that stress off. You have little more time to work with your family and focus on what you enjoy instead of having to constantly be out there and recruiting your own roster and everything. Yeah, I mean, I totally understand the move for him. It makes sense. And plus, like, he's been a good head coach, but he was a damn good offensive coordinator.
Yeah,
so watching him get back to his thing.
And look, Florida State has not been able to consistently run the ball. Gus Malzahn's one of the best coaches in the country when it comes to running the ball. And that's where I see like getting in they're going to get in the mix for a transfer quarterback of who, for the most part, we don't know who that's going to be.
Right.
We've seen that there's a couple. There's nobody
that seems to fit that mold.
that's gonna shake.
At the moment.
Yeah, at the moment, there's nobody at the moment who's shaking things up.
Correct.
There will be.
Yes.
There will be. I think the two names I'm watching the most are Noah Fafita and John Mateer. I think those two will shake things up the most. Miller Moss is in there, and
I don't think he's a good fit for them.
No, I think Miller Moss needs to go to a team. I think he needs to be on the Power 4 level. But I think Miller Moss needs to go to like a Vanderbilt or something like that. Like I think that if Pavia loses his appeal and all that, so which we'll see. But they went and got Florida State went and hired Gus Malzahn, which offensive line that's not been the problem at UCF. Defensive consistency. Mike Bianchi from the Orlando Sentinel wrote yesterday about him that where he looks to have messed up is most UCF fans saw 6 and 7 first year of Big 12 as a success because it's like, hey, this is the first year in the Power Conference. It's a lot more it's a lot different. 6 and 7 getting to a bowl game, rallying back from being, having to deal with John Rice Plumlee's injury and like getting that back in and getting to a bowl game was a good first year. But Gus Malzahn, this is a guy who's been to national championship games as a coordinator and a head coach. He did not see it as a good – he saw it as, oh, we didn't do enough.
Right.
He didn't see it as a stepping stone. He saw it as, oh, man, I got to change everything. So I'm going to bring in Ted Roof, and I'm going to take the play calling back over. Even though I haven't been doing that, I still think he can be a great play caller. But without I'm play calling and I'm head coaching and – we're bringing in 40, 50 transfers, and we're flipping this whole roster. And none of that really was what they needed to necessarily do. They needed to, find their strengths and build on it. And a lot of it they had in-house already.
Yeah.
And just didn't, because you restructured the whole thing, you wind up going 4-8. And if not by the grace of Oklahoma State, you would have had the worst year in the conference.
And they also consistently regressed at quarterback play.
Yeah.
While Gabriel was there and everything, nobody could ever really stay healthy. Like Gabriel got banged up, John Rice Plumlee constantly battled injuries. And then once both of them were gone, you thought I know me and you felt like getting KJ Jefferson would have been the ideal fit. Unfortunately, he was washed up with what he did I think he maxed out everything at Arkansas in that final year he had there where he looked bad was kind of just who he was. We weren't really ready to accept. I know I wasn't really ready to accept that. I thought he would go and kind of rebound over there. But I think kind of all of that, but definitely missing on the portal in the quarterback position. Like you mentioned, that just bringing in Ted Roof, I don't think that ever really worked. It's really just the quarterbacks and the inconsistency on defense kind of dealt Gus Malzahn a blow. I think he can eventually, if he wanted to, get back in and be a good head coach, but I think that's kind of the right move for him, honestly, and I think it's going to be intriguing to see what he could do. And you also saw, with this move, multiple players start hitting the portal from UCF, so, you got to figure out, as they're bringing in their coach, what are you looking for? He's going to have a lot to do. Whoever you bring in is going to have to reshape this roster and to bring in the right type of fits through the portal and everything. So that's just something to keep an eye on there with people and recruits starting to bail out with Malzahn headed to Tallahassee.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's another big thing. And then just today, it's not official yet, but it's about
Trending
to be.
that way.
Tony White, defensive coordinator at Nebraska, who is excellent. He was at Syracuse, now he's in Nebraska. He'll be a head coach in another year or two. And he's also probably bringing pot roast Terrence Knighton with him. Is leaving Matt Rule's staff and is on his way to be the defensive coordinator at Florida State. So Gus Malzahn and Tony White, hello, beautiful.
So this is something you've been talking about for a couple weeks. You had to go big.
Go big. You
and everything.
have to go big. Like, he could not. Now, Gus Malzahn is he's actually in Gus's.
Yeah.
He's in Gus's tree.
Yeah.
Gus is not in his tree. He was a GA for Gus. But you've got to go big, and his offense is based off of Gus's system. Mm-hmm. So what better person to come in and fix it than Gus?
Right.
Because Gus's system works, and Gus is innovative, and Gus is always changing up things. He's always out in front. He's not like a Jimbo Fisher who's like, look, this offense works.
Yeah, just make it work.
It worked. In 2007, it worked. It worked in 2013. I don't know what we're talking about. Like in 2022, it doesn't work, Jimbo. Mm-hmm. Like, no, it will. It'll come back around.
Yeah.
Like, believe me, people are going to be into this. But Gus is innovative, and then – what do you need to do to get your intensity back on defense? Go get the dude. Like, that's the dude. Mm-hmm. And one of the other candidates was the SMU defensive coordinator, who I think is very, very good. And SMU is going to have to fight to keep him with Rhett Lashley. But ultimately, they made what I think. I mean, getting Tony White, who helped change Nebraska's attitude. I think it's a big loss for Nebraska, not one that I think Matt Rule can't overcome, because what he'll do is he'll go find Tony White 2.0.
Correct.
I mean, that's what they'll do. So I'm thrilled. I didn't even think that could have been the name. And Tony White's name in any of the hot boards, like maybe I saw one of well, they should probably give Tony White a call.
Yeah, but it was nothing
didn't even occur to me on the list I made. I didn't think first of all, I don't think Gus Malzahn was getting fired, and we're all kind of off about the whole coaching cycle a little bit. There's not a ton of jobs open, but I do think some programs said, look, we can't just spin it neutral here. UCF now, even though I don't think they were going to fire Gus because they didn't want to pay the buyout, like they might have fired him next year if it continued. Right. They kind of got done a favor here, and they can get into the market for, somebody big, like a John Sumrall or whoever, right? And North Carolina, Mac Brown gets fired. Mm-hmm. That's a huge one. That's a huge job, a huge potential job that has not hit its potential in a very long time. North Carolina's not won the ACC since, I think, the early 80s. Mm-hmm. They've not won it. So that's kind of a sleeping giant program if they got that right, given the resources and the recruiting base they have. To me, that's where I think they should hire Jamie Chadwell. But, we'll see what happens and where they go. And then, of course, Big 12-wise, West Virginia, I get not wanting to pay a buyout and a house settlement, but Neil Brown's done all he can do.
Yeah, he hit his wall there.
They were not going to, especially after everybody should be having fun in spite of us winning or losing.
That was the coffin, the nail in the coffin, dude.
Ren Baker and the administration was not going to be able to sell that. We don't know about revenue sharing and this and buyouts. That would have been we don't care, figure it out. No, it's not fun to, we have fun before the game.
Right.
We don't have fun at the game. So we can do the before the game thing anytime. We would like to have fun at the game.
Yep.
And that's the thing I do not think he was going to be able to sell coming back, from that. And they should have some interesting candidates in that one. I would call up Jason Candle at Toledo. I think that would be I think
my first thought was Barry Odom.
I think Barry Odom would be great.
He was
Jeff Munkin. I have top fives on this week. You can see them all. And hopefully by Wednesday, when the UNC one will run, no one will have picked a coach yet.
Right.
But UCF, I think I don't even think they really caught that flat-footed. I think they're oh, great, good deal.
Yeah, that was just one where to me it caught me off guard because I knew that things were kind of we're touch and go there, to say the least, that some people wanted Gus out. It kind of felt like it was coming to an end. I thought he would make it through at least one more year. But no, that one was the one that caught me off guard the most. I really wasn't surprised by the Neil Brown move or Mac Brown. I kind of felt like both of them, this was their last year. And on the North Carolina front, this is something I was thinking about. Now, I know, is there any pressure there football-wise the way there is basketball from Duke? Like, because Duke is,
no, I think like,
because they've had success in football the past couple of years that North Carolina hasn't. And then Manny Diaz is like a damn good coach that should be there for a minute.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if there was anything that like played into that on the football wise. I'm not that familiar with how that rivalry goes.
I don't think that they're that worried about it. Right. I mean, like North Carolina though really needs to start winning in football.
Well, especially if they were pounding their chest like we're going to be the ones taking, and the Big Ten would want us and everything. And it's like, okay, but
they don't. North Carolina to me is kind of like, even to a lesser degree because they haven't been as successful, but like the A&M of the
Carolinas.
Yeah, like no reason not to be good at everything. Everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like you are a big enough school, you have the resources, you should be good at everything.
Correct.
And they're just not. And A&M is good at football. They're just not great. Like A&M's problem is they're good at football. They're great at baseball right now. They're great at almost everything. Like women's basketball, the women's sports, like softball, like those are mostly just fantastic all the time, right? Mm-hmm. Track and field, great. Tennis, great. Like you name a sport, A&M is in the upper echelon of most of them. It's football, which is the only one they care about, the 100%, is the one where they're just slightly above mediocre. They're good, they're not great, and they haven't really ever been great. So, at least not in the modern era.
Right.
So, North Carolina is that same way. They've had a few good years, but they've never had a great season in football. Like, they just haven't, and there's no reason for them to not be fantastic at everything. Look, it was killing Texas for a while to not be great at everything, and now we'll see about basketball, but basketball should be okay. Mm-hmm. But like they're at the top of their leagues in pretty much everything. Right. Although baseball I know was a big disappointment, but Schlossnagel's there now and they'll win. So yeah, that's not that's the thing about North Carolina. Okay. That really is. They just need to be. They should be better.
All right, theoretically, let's do that. Let's play that since that's the cool thing.
Yeah.
If you were offered all three of those jobs, which one would you take first? Like, what would your order be in those three jobs?
North Carolina, UCF, West Virginia.
Okay.
North Carolina, UCF, West Virginia. UCF has potential. North Carolina, I would just want to be like, look, here's the thing. SMU is probably going to win the ACC. I think that they will handle Clemson. I really do. I think they're a much more complete team. And Clemson has lost to every good team they've played this year.
Yes.
They lost to Georgia and South Carolina and Louisville. Mm-hmm. Those are the three good teams they've played. They've lost to all of them. And Louisville's not even that good, but like they're the third best team they played. They lost to them. And they should have lost to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So I don't think Clemson's bad. I just don't think they're that great. And SMU's good, legitimately good on both sides of the ball. They're well-rounded and good. They can win playoff games. They absolutely can. Mm-hmm. Can they win a national title? I don't know.
No.
I don't know who can, really. Like, I really don't know out of this year who can. Like,
it's going to be fascinating.
Oregon's the only team I feel confident saying, like, if you had to tell me pick at least one team that will be in the last game, I would say Oregon. And even then, I'm not 100, like, right. I'm not super confident because there's nobody that's great right now.
Yep.
There's nobody that's great. So we'll see. Like, and again, we'll see how SMU does. SMU's also had the benefit of, the best team that they were supposed to play was total garbage. And that was their big thing on the schedule. Yep. But they did look. They only lost to BYU, right? Mm-hmm. They're undefeated in the conference. They took on all comers and beat most of them handily.
Yep.
So I mean, all right. So if I'm taking the job in the AAC with the power conference, if I wanted to figure the one, like, which is the one I could win the the conference title the quickest.
Right.
The Big 12 is not the one I'm picking.
No.
I'm not picking the Big 12. Now, if I want to say, hey, if I do well at a place, can this be my job? Like where this is the greatest coach in the history of UCF? Yeah. Like that's one that's a thing for me. West Virginia, not a bad job, but like I still think a great job. But for me personally, like that's it. But North Carolina, I'm going, okay, so that takes UCF and West Virginia out of that question you asked me. North Carolina, what do I have to do? Worry about Clemson, who won't completely adapt to the times? SMU, who, is kind of hanging around? What's going on at Florida State? Like, I shouldn't be that scared of NC State or Duke or Georgia Tech. Like, they're all about the same level as me. Syracuse, like, okay, if I get the fact that they didn't play for a conference title with Drake May is unreal.
It's ridiculous.
So if I can get a Drake May or two in here, if I can get the players, I mean, Julius Peppers was there. Dre Bly, they've had some great football players at North Carolina. Lawrence Taylor played at North Carolina. Like, you can get the superstars there. It's a great campus, a great sports atmosphere. The fans will go nuts. All right?
That's the thing is, like, all three of those jobs have elite fan bases. Like,
yeah,
really
elite
good fan bases.
Look, and here's the other thing is, as a football coach, I know as long as the basketball team's doing well, I can have a couple of down years. I can have a year where, we had injuries and graduation, so I've got some room to rebuild. As opposed to if I take the Ohio State job, should that come open, like I have to beat Michigan every single year.
Yeah.
And if I lose to them, it better be the ref's fault. And then, like, what's we went 9-3 this year, let's try to figure this out. It's like, no. You don't get to figure it out.
No.
It should be figured out, and you should have already known where you went wrong, and you should have corrected it the minute you got the third loss.
Right.
Like, there's your window of getting it right. North Carolina provides you a ton of opportunity to get it right, have a little wiggle room and some grace with the fan base, because, as soon as football season's over, they're totally focused on basketball, and you can work in the shadows a little bit.
That makes sense.
As opposed to some of these other jobs, you're not working in the shadows ever.
No.
West Virginia would probably vault UCF in that regard because you can maybe work in the shadows a little bit, but here's the difference between West Virginia and the other two that you asked about. They love basketball and football equally.
Correct.
That's why they're an elite fan base.
Yep.
They don't just – it's not like Kentucky or North Carolina or Kansas where there's a drop-off, right? West Virginia –
they're like Iowa State. Like, they are there.
Iowa State, like, they are – there's not I'm more of a basketball fan than a football fan. I don't care. Like, no. I'm a fan of West Virginia. I'm a fan of Iowa State. If it's football, if it's basketball, if it's baseball, if it's tiddlywinks, if it's Quidditch, I'm going for that team.
Yep.
I am all in for them. I care this much. That's rare.
Yeah.
That's rare. And so they have that. So you can't really – you might be able to at least, especially if basketball does well right now, you might have a little window. The new coach will have a little window where there's a new basketball coach. He can kind of, DeVries can kind of, maybe cover up some of the like, okay, I'm gonna freeze off some of these warts here where nobody will notice. No, North Carolina, you can do that.
Yeah.
The minute the football season, so actually before football season's even over, North Carolina is playing Kansas and Kentucky and whoever the hell else.
Right.
And in the Bahamas or wherever they go, and the fans are locked in that day. And if the football team is just say 8-4 that year, they're like, well, it was a good year. We just need a better quarterback or we had some injuries in the secondary and couldn't stop the pass, but you know what? The basketball team's going to be in the Elite Eight,
exactly.
so I'm all right.
Good.
I'm good. Yeah,
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that. Like, I think for me, I would probably go West Virginia just because I feel like they have the more, I don't know, they seem like they have more tradition with their football program. I think that that's a low-key, like going back with the fan base, you're going to have the support there. I think Ren Baker would be a badass athletic director to work for. I think you could recruit, like recruiting is more difficult up there, but if you're able to get into the Northeast and get like some cats out of Jersey, or you're able to go back and reestablish a pipeline in Florida like we saw other coaches have there in the past, it could work. That would probably be the one I would go for. I think I would take West Virginia if I had those three on the docket.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, that's what I would do. I mean, UNC to me, I would absolutely love like the opportunity to be. They should have guys knocking down their door because they've got potential. And the thing is that they're a brand. Like, even though football wise, they're in no way.
No, it's a national, like
but it's a brand name. So like in the new. Okay, so say it came down to North Carolina at SMU, right, and getting that thing, North Carolina's probably going to get that.
Yeah.
Right? Like in the, well, there's more North Carolina. It's not fair, but none of this is fair.
No.
Or especially when it comes to maybe getting more than one team in the playoff.
They have some more cachet. Yeah, I got you.
Have some more cachet. North Carolina. And like, again, Michael, like, he didn't play football, but Michael Jordan went there.
Yeah.
All right? You are going to see, like, you'll see Michael Jordan at a football game there. Mm-hmm. You won't see him at another school. Like, he's not going to Clemson.
No.
Like, I would use that. Like, hey, the greatest professional athlete in the history of the world went to school right here.
Don't they give like I feel like they have a wall in there of the Jordan shoes and the athletes can have like their pit. Yeah, that's something.
Use it.
Yeah.
Find somebody who can use it. North Carolina, like, maybe I need to do a top 5 of sleeping giant, like, not working up to their potential jobs, like A&M,
Arizona
not
State.
hitting their potential, Arizona State.
Which they're starting to.
North Carolina, like all these, UCLA, like, could be. They don't, like, their athletic situation is weird, but like that could be way bigger than
area
it is.
to go. Yeah.
It could be way bigger than it is. I think they're also hindered by the fact that they don't play close to campus.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, USC, I mean, yeah, that's kind of a weird thing.
Yeah. And USC is a private school, so it's a little bit different, but like Miami could be kind of a sleeping giant, but they're still a private school, so you're kind of limited on the same scale of, like, you know, what some state schools can do, but like Arizona State, North Carolina, A&M should all be way better in football.
They should
all be way better in football. And I'm sure there's some other schools I'm leaving out here that have that kind of cachet that they're not really cashing in on. Auburn's one of them, right? Auburn's one of them.
Nebraska.
Nebraska's
like the poster child.
Like, these are schools that never have.
That never have? Okay.
That never really have. So, you know, who's sitting out there
one.
on a big mountain of potential that they just have not have not cashed in on. So we're going to hear from Peyton Soysher right now. He's going to talk about the Big 12 ACC debate when it comes to the rankings tomorrow night. We'll hear from him again tomorrow and, of course, throughout the week. That's going to do it for us. I'm Paul Catalina. He's Garrett Ross. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share. Please, maybe don't share my rant. If you want to share my rant, share my rant.
Share the rant.
I was a crazy person today. Thank you to everyone in the chat today. We had a bunch of people, maybe like 60 or 570 watching live today, which is great. We're trying to grow the Triple Option channel, so please subscribe to that. And all those formulaic things that I have to do. If you see a sponsor in the background, please go buy their stuff. Anyway, that's going to do it for us. Here's Peyton. In an hour, we have Ari Temkin, Jed Drenning, Scott Drew, Phil Bennett, the Big 12 North Pod, my top 5 West Virginia replacements for Neil Brown. That's all coming up. This is the Triple Option on the Triple Option channel and 365 Sports.
Hi everyone, Chief Rankings Officer Peyton Soysher here on the Triple Option with Paul Catalina. We had an insane Week 14, also known as Rivalry Weekend, where all of the teams now have found a place within their top 25, but we had some enormous upsets, and we have one or two ranking enigmas, if you want to call it that, of where these teams are going to be ranked going into Tuesday night's rankings release from the playoff committee. We need to take a look at where the Big 12 sits and how the ACC plays into that Big 12 mix. Let's take a look at rankingsrightnow.com, where we have machine learning algorithms that have historically trained data on previous ranking scenarios from the playoff committee and see where they might rank each of these teams on Tuesday night and what implications will that have on the Big 12 championship game. So let's go to rankingsrightnow.com. You can create yourself a free login. You can add your favorite teams, play with the what if simulation tool. But as of right now, let's take a look at the week 15 projected rankings from the model. And let's take a look right in this area right here. Right in this South Carolina, Miami, Alabama, Arizona State, Ole Miss, Iowa State area, right? So what does this say to me? Well, this says right here that BYU is going to be gone. BYU is projected to stay at 18. They're not playing in the Big 12 championship game. They're essentially out of the college football playoff. So now we go to where the rankings are for Arizona State and Iowa State. That is 14 and 16 according to the rankings model predictions. What I'm very curious about is if the playoff committee will go out of their way to rank either Arizona State or Iowa State higher in the rankings. The reason for that is if we take a look at who the top conference champions will be, right? Let's say SMU wins the ACC championship. So let's say Oregon wins the Big Ten. Let's say Texas wins the SEC. Notre Dame is independent, so it doesn't matter there. Let's say SMU wins the ACC, and let's say Boise State wins their conference, right? We are now at the 4 byes, because those will be the 4 highest ranked teams for the college football playoff, right? That's how the rules work. Now, those will be the top 4 seeds. Therefore, we now need to start going into all of the rest of the pack. So we just go essentially through 12 in that scenario. Arizona State and Iowa State are not included in that scenario. So that would be an enormous problem for the playoff committee to try and explain why the Big 12 does not have any representation in the college football playoff. That would be borderline unacceptable. So either Arizona State and Iowa State are going to have to play each other at a 14 and 16, and one of them is going to have to jump all the way up to 11 or 12, which would push out a potential South Carolina. South Carolina, Miami, Alabama, and Ole Miss do not play in their championship game. They all desperately need that final game. What happens if Clemson wins the ACC? Do you drop out SMU from the top 12 and bring in a Clemson in at 11 and 12? Right? Because even so, that's another strange scenario. Let's go through that. Let's say Clemson wins. Let's say Arizona State wins and Clemson wins. If Arizona State wins, they could move up to a 12 or even a 13, for example, and they would still be, and let's say SMU drops below that. Then Arizona State grabs a spot in the rankings because they will be one of the top 4 conference champions. That means the ACC is completely out. Or at least you have to put a Clemson or SMU down at the very bottom. So you have this weird situation where Clemson loses to South Carolina. Are they going to get punished for that loss? Typically, right? Typically, we see a drop of 4, 5, or 6. If you look at all of the previous rankings, when a team loses in that position, they drop down that amount. So, crazy, weird scenarios that the playoff committee kind of put themselves in, right? By not giving any attribution to BYU or Iowa State or Colorado or Arizona State, they put themselves in this really weird scenario where someone's going to get their feelings hurt. And it could be an entire conference, right? Now, you could make the argument that BYU had everything in front of them. They blew it. Colorado had everything in front of them. They blew it, right? Arizona State and Iowa State are the only two that kind of started at the bottom and have crept their way up and continued to stay up over the last couple of weeks. So, a weird scenario that could be going down with the rankings. And that Tuesday rankings release is going to tell us everything that we need to know of, are they pitting themselves in a corner, or are they actually going to set themselves up for success to say, we're going to put Arizona State up at 12 to try and give us a little bit more wiggle room for when Arizona State wins. If Iowa State beats a 12, do they swap places with them? Where does Clemson only drop down to 15 so that if SMU loses, we can slide SMU out and Clemson in? This brings really, really troubling news for teams like Miami, for teams like South Carolina and Alabama. You just don't know where all of the when they expanded the playoffs to 12, it was like, oh, okay, this is going to make things a lot more easy. It just made things a lot more complicated, right? Even if you didn't have, even if the top 4 is also a big question mark with Notre Dame and Penn State and Iowa State and Georgia, right? That's a big question mark. But now you have like a group, you have a conference now that is going to be fighting for whether they should be in of the college football playoff. And not only that, do they deserve a bye in certain scenarios? Let's say Arizona State wins big. SMU loses to Clemson. Arizona State might now get a bye in the top 4 rankings or the top 4 seeds for the college football playoff, because Oregon would have that one, Georgia or Texas would have the SEC, Boise State would have their conference, and now you're up to an ACC or a Big 12 conference that's going to get that final spot. So. And it goes to the highest ranked team of the conference champion. So it has to be either SMU, Arizona State, Iowa State, or Clemson. That's a very strange scenario. So I would have to say that the playoff committee is probably begging that Clemson or that SMU wins to make it a lot easier for them. But the Big 12 is going to be the biggest question mark, and they've had that conference might have had the most exciting games of the entire year. So to leave an entire conference out is going to be a really, really complicated question. So stick with the triple option with Paul Catalina all week to get all of this information. 365 Sports, they'll be going through all of the different scenarios, all of the fun rankings. We'll get our answers on Tuesday night. We'll continue to project out the where the rankings are going to be after Championship Saturday. It's going to be a crazy weekend of college football and an enormous amount of questions for the implications of where all of the teams are going to be ranked going into the college football playoff. I am Chief Rankings Officer Peyton Soysher on the Triple Option with Paul Catalina.